And tonight we are really honored to be here with Michelle with two L's, from Being True to You, and Kyle, one of Being True to You's integration coaches. We're going to talk about some important things that are going on with Being True to You and the plant medicine path,
Right.
and what this integration is all about.
Integration's thrown around. That word is in the community thrown around quite often. And something, let us explain what that is. Why don't you explain, Kyle? Why don't you go ahead and both introduce yourself first? Why don't
Yeah,
you go ahead,
absolutely.
Michelle?
Yeah, I'd love to. Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Plant. I'm a client manager at Being True to You, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you both. Integration to me includes preparation, and I love to run, so I always think of training for a marathon. You can definitely run a marathon on pure adrenaline, but it's not going to be pleasant. And I just really, really think about how important that training is, and also really reflecting on the accomplished that were made. So integration is a lot. It's hard to capture in a few sentences. There's a lot there. So on to you, Kyle.
Hi everyone, my name is Kyle. I'm an integration coach with Being True to You. Now, integration is just the shortened version of like psychedelic integration. And I like to look at the words very etymologically. So psychedelic is either broken down into mind manifesting psyche or soul manifesting. And integration literally means taking two things, bringing them together to be greater than the sum of their parts, like to become more whole. So when you look at that, especially when you look at how we're using the term entheogen more these days over psychedelics or with it, entheogenic integration, psychedelic integration, we're literally looking at taking the contents of our mind, of our soul, and of these experiences of our God within that come to us in these journeys, in these ceremonies, and bringing them into our life and becoming more because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Great explanation there.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you there, Kyle. Integration coach, how do you go about the whole process of integration? Say somebody comes to you, they're coming off their journey, they're looking to go deeper and find out what their journey was all about. Talk a little bit about how you go about doing
The
that.
process of integration.
Well, like Michelle said, integration begins with preparation. So if someone comes to me and my first contact is after their ceremony, I want to know first and foremost why. I want to know their why. What was bringing them to that work? Where were they in their life? Who were they then? What was their intention? What were their goals? And then, after that's clear, okay, let's talk about what's present and then what came to you during that ceremony. Because once you have the stage set, once you understand your why, once you understand your call to action, because literally it's a hero's journey that you're engaging in. You're saying yes to this call to action. You go through this experience where you go through every of those steps.
Yeah.
Then what you find yourself grappling with or in joyous bliss with during your journey gets to be discussed and understood within the context of your why. You see, it becomes challenging when people just get the invitation and they say yes. They lack the discernment and they lack that. They're checking themselves, right? Because sometimes there's a bypassing to it. Oh, I got invited, so it must be a sign. Well, yes and no. Like, if I was to work with someone in the beginning and they had these ideas about what they wanted to do, I'd also help them check what their options are. So once you have the goal set, once you have your why set, and we've identified certain strategies and skills that you can use to engage with the process, to meet the medicine, so they don't say, okay, let's find out where you're going to do this. Let's interview certain guides and facilitators. Let's look at your goals versus the medicines and what their offerings are, because you can align a certain medicine with a certain desire. Now, again, if someone comes to me just afterwards, I do my best to recreate that structure. And then we start talking about, okay, what are you feeling? What did you experience? And I find that eventually it's possible to tie that symbolic experience, that archetypal experience, those visions, those feelings to something that they wanted, to something that they're desiring. And even if they weren't sure the best way to engage in that experience in their talks with me, okay, you're really good with breathwork, you're really good with yoga. Like, use this in your practices, bring your inquiry into that practice, and
Right.
go within.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, coming off these journeys in the very beginning, it's kind of hard to identify with those feelings, though. And how do you connect with that person when they're really having a hard time not even understanding what those feelings came from or how they are, or how do you connect them with that?
Great question. This is one of my favorite parts of coaching, when someone's deeply in a feeling state and they don't understand what it means or what to say, how to articulate it. I like to ask them to pay as much attention to that feeling as possible. I draw them into this process where I ask them to close their eyes, sit up comfortably, and notice where in their body this feeling lives.
Mhm.
To put all of their attention there and to breathe slowly and deeply into this space without any expectation. Because when all the attention's there, this is a way you get into your body. Now, I don't say get into your body, but if they follow that cue, before long, they're like feeling, right?
Mhm.
And to feel what's there really is most of the work. Like
Yeah.
80% of it. If you can feel it, you can heal it, right?
Mhm.
More often than not, people spend a couple minutes here, they notice things about this space. They notice qualities like a texture or a color or a temperature. And further, they notice it shifting as they give it their full attention. In other words, their love, right? And after this experience, I usually help them understand what is going on there. And I like to explain it as what's really happening is, whenever, like this premise that whenever someone's in pain, whenever most people are in pain, um, there's an outreaching. We find something, someone, an experience, food, drugs, sex, alcohol, to change
Mhm.
how I'm feeling. But it goes back to this knowing that like the answers aren't out there. When you
Mhm.
feel pain, it's our inner child
Yep.
somewhere in our body that wants
Mhm.
attention. Like any child that's in pain, what do? You pick it up, you give it
Mhm.
attention, you love it,
Mhm.
and it calms down. And I
Mhm.
explained to them, this is what you just did. That little
Right.
shift right there, the lightness you feel, you created that. You can do
Yeah.
this anytime.
Mhm.
And usually at that point, there's a little more spaciousness, there's more stability, and we can start talking about what they noticed. And sometimes
Mhm.
memories come up, sometimes thoughts, sometimes they remember something from the journey that precipitated this experience, that triggered it. And of course, that can lead us into a conversation around traumatic events,
Mhm.
and much more unfolds from there. But that really is the key. I
Mhm.
spend most of my time helping people learn how to feel their feelings.
Right.
Most of them want to just like go straight up here and like, what did that mean? Like, what do I
Right.
do with that? How do I
Mhm.
build a new life with this? No, let's feel that first. Let's start with
Mhm.
our bodies because it speaks in a different language. Our
Yeah.
bodies don't speak English.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
How do you allow them to process what they're going through or what they experienced, but guiding them toward, I don't know what toward, but guiding them toward a direction
Towards,
that,
I guess what Michelle could be saying is towards that release,
yeah,
towards that
yeah,
release
yeah,
of those
yes.
tears. Those tears are great. I mean, that release is what we need. And that release is so deep. And I feel it builds so deep on our bodies that we have forgotten about it. And when we remember is when we release. And release is painful.
So it's a lot of probably holding space for them.
Hmm.
So the question is, how do I guide them towards these releases?
Well, and just allowing them to process without telling them what's happening there, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. I'm reminded of one of the golden rules of coaching and of the medicine work in general is to meet someone where they're at. And
Hmm.
to do that, you really need to let go of a destination. The guidance process is doing everything I can to walk beside them. So, with this particular example, if someone is game to going through that meditation, I really don't know what I'm going to say next. Like the few things I mentioned, yeah, where is it in your body? Pay attention to that. But at that point, I'm as focused and present as I can be,
Right.
witnessing this person's experience of themselves, noticing the subtle body language, noticing the breathing, and tapping into what could be best for them in that moment. So
Hmm.
if I notice that they are expressing some discomfort, I'll ask them to lean into that. That's
Right.
pretty much another golden rule. Like go, yeah, go there. Or if it's like a
Hmm.
deep breath, some kind of kriya they would call it, some kind of um, emotional expression,
Hmm.
I'll encourage more of that.
Hmm.
It's about noticing what kinds of reactions are going to deepen their experience and then affirming and acknowledging that like you would with a child because they're going into an unfamiliar space
Absolutely.
and that needs to be something that hey I'm experienced with. You need to know what's like and to let go of controlling it and taking them somewhere, but understanding what their process, what it looks like, what it means when you see something like that happening. So yeah, I think that's the best I can say how
Yeah,
I
yeah.
support that process.
You're really holding space to let
Yeah.
them go through their process.
And there's something to be said about this whole process. I think what keeps us on this path is because I think every time that we heal from something, we grow.
Mhm.
And I think in the Western world, we're told not to grow. We're given medicines and medications to just suppress. And man, I think this path attracts a certain individual that really wants to transform their lives.
Well, a certain pain or a
Hmm.
certain point in life,
Right.
really. Yeah. Where do you, I mean, I have one more question for you is would be, and then I'd like to ask Michelle some questions about actual the integration program that you've got. But why is it important to come to an integration coach before? Because we really believe in pre-integration, but either or and after. Why is that important?
It's important largely because it mitigates a lot of risk. Right now, there are more people than ever who are going to find the medicines. And if they want them, they're going to find them one way or another.
Mhm.
Hmm.
There are so many celebrities and public figures now talking about their experiences,
Hmm.
mostly ayahuasca. And I get so many people being like, where can I find ayahuasca? And I'm like, oh, hold on, like pump the brakes. You don't have to start there. Let's talk about
Right.
like a little bit of your history. It's
Hmm.
not
Mhm.
it's not just getting set on the why and then getting clear on your skills and how you're going to work with the medicine and where you want to be, like getting clear in your 10-year vision and like really getting someone excited about their future because they're about to
Right.
engage an experience that's going to alter their path in a big way,
Absolutely.
bigger than they
Hmm.
imagine.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there are so many choices. Like that's the easy part, I believe, like preparing someone and getting them truly oriented to their highest self and getting them a little more familiar with like the pain, like what might come up. I don't want them to be surprised by some shadow overtaking the experience. I want them to be familiar with that and be ready for that. And
Right.
then I like to, if they're not working with me, it's like, okay, let's look at all the options you have. Let's find a community that you feel comfortable with, that you feel that you can trust. Let's find a guide that's going to do a thorough intake and like that really cares about the people coming in. Let's find the right medicine that's going to bring you to these experiences you're looking for that is most like spiritually and chemically um, accurate and appropriate for the experience. And then from there, you know,
Yeah.
they're either with me or they go on their experience and we come together afterwards. But this really hits like an important place for me because I got into this work because I went to an experience that was so powerful but so careless, so unprofessionally held.
Mhm.
I had one of those trips to the Amazon, and you know I had been with ayahuasca before, but this one was so different. I'm in the heart of the jungle with one of the indigenous tribes, and it's a 2 week immersion, and we sit 8 times in 2 weeks. In each ceremony, 200 people. I didn't know much about transference and countertransference then, but now that I do, just knowing like the myriad of energies present that could have been affecting me and everyone else, now I understand why I came back from that. I I fell into 3 years of serious depression and anxiety, and I was suicidal at times. Like
Yeah.
everything went upside down. And you know, this kind of might lead into the question you might ask about being true to you. But I had a mentor, thankfully, kept nudging me in the right direction. And my spiritual emergency came to its spiritual emergence by finding the Being True to You program. Because other than being an incredibly comprehensive training on how to support someone and meet them on their path of transformation with or without medicine, it's transformative in itself. The amount of material, the comprehensive nature of all the different ways that we can be provoked into change, how we can understand what we're bringing into it. It gave me a lexicon, like a codex of language that was largely missing and still kind of is. People speak about these experiences in so many different terms and words, it's hard to really get on the same page.
Right.
It helped me understand what was going on, not just in the Amazon, but in the years prior with my mentor in our space, learning very organically, experientially. It's like, wow, that's what happened. Yes, this is what I know. This is how I can explain it to people. This is how I can tell my story to others in a way that they'll be able to understand and carry forth and tell others. And again, this is a big part of what like I think makes integration so powerful. We are recreating the art of like storytelling, right? Because before history, before books, it was all oral tradition, and like telling your story is the most powerful part of the healing process. I find that throughout time, as I continue to tell my story about my time in the Amazon, and I get asked this often, I notice a different way I'm relating to a certain thing I'm speaking to. Like, oh, when I mention this experience with that person, it doesn't hurt as much. I don't feel as resentful. I don't feel as triggered. Something shifted there. And to get people to just own that and speak their truth about what's going on, that's such an important part. So,
Definitely.
yeah, I went on a little bit of a tangent there. Hope.
Yeah,
hope
no, it
No,
was
that's,
great.
I mean, that's
it's
something I'd love to have you on later on and we can definitely discuss for sure because there's a lot there, you
there's
know.
a lot to unpack
Yeah, there's a
there.
lot
the
there.
stories there.
So,
Yeah, it's important. So, yeah,
yeah,
let's talk a
before we-
little to Michelle about the actual Being True to You program.
right.
Yeah.
Tell
Yeah.
us, because this
I
is
would love to. First of all, Kyle, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
I had a careless experience as well, which is what brought me to
fearless
Being True
experience.
to You. And it was very unfortunate, and I'm still doing a lot of work to come around from that. So I just want to say I see you there and can understand how deeply traumatic that can be. So my interest with Being True to You came as a result of that. And at first, I was originally terrified of psychedelics, and I didn't want anything to do with them. I had had my experience, I knew I was done, and I didn't want to ever talk about anything like that again. And something in me just kept telling me, like, no, you need to help others through your experience. And I did not do any preparation or integration with that specific scenario. And looking back, that could have helped so much. And I take personal accountability for my experience. And had I done my homework before, I don't know that I would have participated. And I also don't know that, and of course at this point it's the best thing that's ever happened to me because it showed me so much of what I'm capable of, and really just enforcing how important community is and true connection. So just so much there. And our
Yeah.
program is just
It's
amazing.
Mhm.
Yes, it's so important. And, I think that with psychedelics being so mainstream, like Kyle was
Yeah.
talking about earlier, there's a lot of people who are like, I want to do mushrooms, or I want to be a facilitator, or I want to do this. And it's like, just do your work first. And that's
Yeah.
Right, definitely, for
really
sure.
what Being True to You is all about. And
Mhm.
many people that go through our program aren't even really interested in coaching. They just know from friends or family the level of depth that this
Yeah.
content goes to. And I mean, we had someone who finished spring and his daughter is enrolling in the fall, and it's just so monumental, the depth of material that we cover, and it can be challenging. I mean, some people have referred to the coach training as a ceremony in itself. It's just this like
Yes.
super long experience in this very safe container of like-minded people who hold the same vision of wanting to help others, and that's really what it's all about. And so we've been training coaches for nearly a decade. Our founder worked in a medicine clinic, and she found that she had been a therapist in the past, and she found these people kept coming back to do the medicine. And she was like, "Why are you coming back? Like,
Mm.
shouldn't this be working?"
Right.
And when she got into it, she was like, "Okay, I'm just using the practices that I have from the education that was given to me to be a therapist." But like Kyle was talking about, it's so important to meet people where they're at, not this therapist patient person. And so she started coaching, and she started working one on one with these people who were coming to the facility, and they stopped coming after they were
Mhm.
integrate. So they stopped coming, but they told their friends. So their friends started to come. And then she needed more coaches. Her fellow therapists were like, I don't know how to coach. I don't know how to coach. Teach me, teach me. And she's like, yes, you do. And they're like, no, can you teach me? And so our first cohort had 6 people.
Hmm.
And last spring we're at 150. And
But how much? What was that number?
150.
Wow.
And the program is so personal, and
Mhm.
we interact with every single person. Every single person also has a mentor to help guide them throughout their coursework as someone who has completed the program, because of course stuff is going to come up when you're doing this deep work. So we really have a dedicated person to support you throughout that. And of course the community is just, there's nothing like there is nothing like it. It's so beautiful, and it's just an amazing opportunity for anyone who's wanting to up level their own transformation, or to step into what it could look like to have a profession in the psychedelic industry.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
Mm-hmm.
going to be a really excelling industry, we feel, in the next few years.
Yeah.
And hold me if I'm wrong, but don't most of your integration, or not all, have to have a psychedelic experience?
It's a conversation we have. Not all of them do. We
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of physicians that come in, or firefighters, and
Mm-hmm.
people who are
Right.
just curious. And
Mm-hmm.
that's all we ask for. Just be curious and wanting to learn. And we'll never say, oh, you've had to do mushrooms, DMT, acid. Like, we
Right.
just want to
Right. Right. Right.
know. We just want to
Mm-hmm.
know, what is it that is guiding you towards this work?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we decide together, is this a good program for you? And
Yeah.
of course, previous medicine experience helps, and that way they really
Experience.
understand, yeah, what
Right.
that could look like. And it's just so lovely. It's the best.
How long is the course?
It's 5.5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So we'll
Okay.
start in early September. We're enrolling for fall now, and
Okay.
yeah, it's going to be amazing.
And when is the cutoff for that enrollment?
I would say we'll probably stop in early September. So if people are interested, they can reach out to me at coaching@beingtruetoyou.com. And I'd love to hop on a Zoom and just chat about your experience, what it is that you want to get, what's your vision, what are your life goals? Like, help me point you in the right direction. And
Yeah.
a lot of times, investing in yourself is the best thing you can do. Like, that is the best thing you can do.
Right.
It is. And just finding this, I mean, as now we've all talked about, I mean, this is mainstream, and all these, people are coming out and saying they're doing psychedelics, and that can lead to very careless medicine, right? I mean, I had one of my friends, reach out to me and said, "Hey, where do I find ayahuasca? Is that something like is that a really good high, or do I like there's so much confusion
I
around
know.
yeah, and that
So
happens.
challenging. Yeah.
This. So people have interest in taking these courses that aren't even, like you said, interested in becoming a psychedelic coach, but just it's an
Yeah.
incredible amount of information.
Yeah, I think it's too, I mean, it's like Kyle was saying, it's really understanding like the why and like what is it, did they just see someone on Instagram talking about it? Like, are they feeling it themselves, or is it some external source that's being presented to them? And are they just acting in a way that's like, oh, I need to do this, check, and I'll be healed, or like, check, this can get me to the next level, and that's not the case. So it's really just like, okay, like, we can talk about that. What would that experience mean to you? What would that achieve for you? And why is it that one and not this? And what's your daily practice already? Are you eating healthy? Are you exercising? Are you drinking water? Are you kind to yourself? Like, what are you doing now that can already help you achieve those goals without medicine?
Well, because this work, coming to this medicine, I don't know, Kyle, you could probably add to this, but coming to this medicine for a lot of people isn't a game. It's maybe life. So I think we have to educate the Western society, the Western world, that this medicine's, I mean, there's a lot of different medicines. I know a lot of us talk about ayahuasca, but there's Wachuma, there's San Pedro, Wachuma, there's
I mean, there's
ketamines, and there's psilocybins, and there's a lot of other options. And ayahuasca is not for the faint of heart, and it can be pretty dangerous for some people that aren't really educated in what they're going to experience.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I tend to look at the world through an integration lens, right? And I often wonder why is integration so important for, let's just say, generally speaking, Westerners coming to this medicine. And if you look at us in our societies, and you look at, say, the indigenous that work with these medicines, like, well, they're not doing integration. Well, it's because it's integrated into their lives. They know how to
Right.
Absolutely.
We are
100%.
detribalized people. We are just learning again the basics and fundaments of human connection and capacity, how to listen, right? Some clients, they're just so overjoyed to be listened to. This is something that we haven't been doing for so long. We don't have these tight-knit groups where we can go to an elder or a seer that understands what's going on in our group of 100 to 150 people that know how to take care of us, that know what to do if we're going to sit with the sacred sacrament. This is all being remembered. And that's why the education is so incredibly important. There is so much novelty in this space for us that it's so profoundly important to understand what is going on right now.
Absolutely.
And how to keep safe, and then how to integrate.
Because the world's broad, the world's trying to heal, and everybody's trying to reach for their last resorts. And I mean, I'm just true believer, and I'm just speaking for me, that I'm not fond of all prescription drugs, medications, and I think people are looking for something, and they see the amazing results that plant medicines have, and there's a lot of different options out there. And education platforms like Being True to You, platforms like the Plant Medicine Path, and others, and people, just education. Just don't dive into this and jump into this and say, is so one fix wonder, because this is work, man.
Yeah. One thing I like to say to everyone who comes to me and they're curious, I make it really clear that these aren't solutions.
Mhm.
These aren't cures. They're not panaceas. They're tools. You need to learn how to use them. And when you're using them, when you're working with them in the ceremony, you will create something. You will get an insight. You will feel something. That is the yield of doing your work with this tool. And then you got to do something with that. There's a reason why we call it the work. And that's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. I mean, the work starts. I remember the first time I heard that. You know, my start was at Soul Quest, and I had beautiful integration there. But I remember hearing, you know, the work starts after the medicine, and I was like, I don't even know what that means. Like, this medicine was a lot of work, you know, just ceremony. So it does, and integration is the most important part.
And we have a question, Michelle. I guess somebody was asking about does this certification
Sorry.
prepare you to people to take
The psychedelic journey.
before and
Yeah.
after?
Yeah, thanks so much for the question. So, we don't specifically talk about the experience itself. There are times when participants throughout the training will share their experience, like Kyle and I have shared today. We're really focusing on the prep and integration. So, yeah, I hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely.
Anything to add there?
Yeah.
Well, you know, this was a great conversation. I
Yeah.
think we're going to follow
We are
up.
definitely going to continue this conversation with Being
definitely, for
True to
sure.
You. We are
Mhm.
going to be, you're going to be able to find Being True to You on our website and on our Facebook page.
Mhm. And I think this month, I think for this sign up, they're giving $100 off if you use the PMP code. And Kyle, I think we're going to follow up with a conversation, and I think we're going to have a little discussion about what we were talking about earlier. So it was
Love that.
great having both you on,
Michelle,
Kyle
thank you.
and
Kyle.
Michelle. Very informative. And
We'll be
man,
back next week
Yeah.
with Jules and Deanne, I believe, and
mhm.
we'll be back to further this discussion.
We need the education, we need the information, and we need the integration.
Yeah.
That's right.
And training. Thank you guys so much.
Love you guys.
Appreciate it.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.